XS Wireless Digital is the perfect wireless audio solution for content creators and filmmakers. Thanks to a 2.4 GHz transmission, XS Wireless Digital is a truly plug-and-play system that allows you to upgrade your in-camera audio with one-button operation. With a variety of configurations to choose from, this entry point into the world of wireless will improve your workflow and will expand the possibilities of how you capture audio for your video. For more information, visit sennheiser.com/XSWD.
The new Super 35 sensor that Canon have introduced with the C300 Mark III is quite a big step up from other S35 sensors that they have created before. From the body and the flexibility that gives us in terms of the expansion packs and the interchangeable mount, to the sensor with its increased dynamic range for tackling scenes that possibly we couldn't have tackled or captured faithfully before, I can get more out of this camera. My money goes further. It's as simple as that from a business standpoint. From a creative point of view, it's unquestionably unlocking more creative avenues for us as filmmakers.
Hello and welcome to ProAV TV. Welcome to our weekly little very informal Q&A chat where there is no agenda. I've got nothing much other than a couple of sort of offers and things that have come up in the last week and some interesting products to talk about at the beginning, but only really a couple of minutes of stuff. And then literally what we talk about here is up to you. So leave in the chat on YouTube or on Facebook. I can see it all here on this laptop. Just leave any questions you may have, anything you want us to talk about at all down there. And let's get started. I mean, it's been quite a fairly quiet week. this week. January's got off to a relatively quiet start. The new Aperture Amaran lights are coming soon, so they've been very popular so far, and I don't blame you guys at all. They look fantastic, so if you haven't seen those, definitely check those out. Morning, everyone. Seeing people chuckling in the chat. Hello, Mark. Hello, Marshall. Evening from Canada. It still baffles me that people watch this from around the world. Thank you so much for joining from Canada. That is incredible. Okay, what else is new? We've got a couple of other new arrivals in terms of products. This incredibly named Lupo Kick-Ass light, which is the sort of successor, if you like. With Web Team are literally just putting this on, so there's no price or anything just yet. But it's the upgrade, if you like, to their smart panel, which is a little on-camera style light, which is actually a couple of meters away from me that way, because we use it all the time as a backlight on this channel. It is great. I've got a video coming up which is going to be explaining the kit that we actually use to make our YouTube videos. And I talk a fair bit about the smart panel as a backlight for me. I think it's a great little backlight. And this looks even better. It's not as bright as the smart panel. It's about half the brightness, but it's still incredibly bright for a little on-camera size panel. And this is full RGB. It only draws 20 watts of power, and it's full RGB, 2,100 lux at 1 meter. It's a really impressive little light, and what makes it so good as a backlight is that the beam angle, because it's so bright, they've done this by reducing that beam angle down, so the beam angle isn't particularly wide like it is on most LED panels. It's certainly not a spotlight, but it's enough to just direct that backlight and just stop it spilling over your entire scene or flaring into the camera lens. So I really recommend those, and there's this new RGB version coming. I've also been asked to talk a little bit about these. These aren't new. They've been selling quite a lot throughout 2020 for obvious reasons, but it's just something that we don't normally do. So I've been asked to just sort of give it a little bit of a highlight. These are basically 360-degree webcams. So they're not 360 in terms of you can just look around everything. It uses it as a webcam for group meetings. So you put it in the middle of a meeting table, and then it will automatically just bring in cubes whoever's speaking around that table. It's great for conferencing and any corporate things. And so if you've got customers out there, or you yourself need a webcam tool for group meetings while keeping people socially distanced around a table, these are absolutely brilliant for that. We've got a couple of offers as well. Sony have added a few things to their big winter cashback deal. So they've had this going for a good few months. And it's got so many products in it, this deal. Varying prices between sort of £100 cashback up to £400 cashback. On all of these products on here. You can go on the website and see the whole list. It's just this Sony winter cashback offer, but they've done additional savings on a few products, and the products that they've done that on just now are really quite interesting. There's the full frame 16 to 35 f2.8 G Master lens. That's another 83 quid price drop on that. There's the 24 to 70 G Master f2.8. And then there's the 70-200 G Master. So all of their sort of holy trinity of lenses, if you like, those wide, standard, and telephoto f2.8 zooms have all had another 800. They've all had another £83 dropped off of their price on top of the £100 cashback that you could get on each one of them. And then there's another one. Oh, it's the 85mm f1.4 G Master portrait lens. Brilliant portrait lens. And then Pana have got a couple of good deals as well going. They've got an up to £400 trade-in deal for the S5. So if you're looking at an S5, basically you can trade in your current DSLR or mirrorless camera and get up to £400 back for that trade-in off of Panasonic. So if you've got anything that you're done with and don't want the hassle of selling it privately, that's a great way to do it. And the other one is if you're just looking at buying an S1H, you just get a straight up free Ninja 5 with it, which is an incredible deal because the Ninja 5 is one of the best accessories. In fact, it was our most viewed product page as an accessory in the last couple of months. Cause I was looking at some of the web statistics the other week, and in terms of things that aren't cameras on our website, the Ninja 5 was the most viewed product page. It is such a popular product, and for good reason. It is a brilliant monitor recorder. Cool. So those are just the little offers that I was wanting to highlight. Plus, we have put out a video on the HoloLens Light 150 and got a stream on Thursday with John Edwards from Naive Studios on some of his work with the Sony a7S Mark III and Zeiss lenses. He uses the Zeiss Batis lenses. It's absolute brilliant commercial. It's a fashion commercial of a collaboration between Lego and Hype Clothing, and he used the a7S III in sort of low light, really rough and ready sort of approach to shooting a fairly high-end fashion commercial for social platforms. That should be a really interesting chat. Okay, just have a quick sip of water and we'll get to some questions. Afternoon, everyone. Afternoon from Littlehampton, Queen Victoria Hospital, Boston, Mexico. Wow. If any of you guys have got any questions at all, just leave them there in the chat. To kick us off, Mark's asking about the Panasonic GH6. Will we see the GH6 soon? Who knows? I would love to see a GH6 soon. I think the GH5, there's lots of things on that. For the longest time, the GH5 has had a really fantastic place in the market. They packed that thing full of features when it first came out, and so really up until the beginning of this year, it was still one of the most feature-rich options on the market, and it was a good few years old. I think this year has finally been the turning point where we've started to see some cameras come out which can best it in terms of some of its just stats, you know, frames a second, resolutions, features. It was such an impressive camera when it came out. I think because of that, though, there is an awful lot of pressure on them for the GH6. I know that they're working on it. I have spoken to Panasonic about sort of the GH6, and I know that it's something their engineers are looking into. I don't know that it's confirmed that it's coming, and I don't know any details about it whatsoever, but I know that they were very keen that if they were going to make a GH6 and a successor to it, that it was going to have to be a good one, and it was going to have to be just as far forward a leap as the GH5 was when it came out. So I know that they have got some exciting plans up their sleeve, and I would love to know what those actually are. In terms of what I'd like to see in them, the biggest thing for me with Panasonic, as it is on all of their products now, is the autofocus, because they've got autofocus, they've got contrast-based autofocus about as good as it possibly can be, and it is a lot better than what it was when the camera first came out. But it's still not there compared to the hybrid systems we've seen from Canon and Sony. And it is such a shame because the sorts of work that the GH5 absolutely lends itself towards, that fast-paced, by yourself, trying to be as cinematic as possible, but I've really got to work up against it, work really quickly, long battery life, you know, the sort of the travel, the weddings, all of that sort of environment. Having decent autofocus which you can rely on, like in the Canons and the Sonys, it's just a perfect match for that kind of work. And so I think if Panasonic get that right, they will have a really strong place in the market, and I would so love to see them with a new autofocus system. They haven't done it yet though, so maybe the GH6 will be the camera that it happens on. Who knows? In terms of other things, really all they need to do is just improve the image quality, improve the low light, and improve the frames a second to make it match the newer cameras that we started to see come out. Things like the Canon R5 and the Sony a7S. I know those are all much, like nearly 3 times the cost, higher priced cameras than the GH5 was. But when the GH5 came out, it did all these things. It offers such a huge amount of value for money. Really, the only compromise was its smaller sensor size. It offered DCI 4K, it offered high frame rates, all of the accessories and tools. And if they managed to crack that on a GH6, even if they kept the low light the same and the image quality much the same, just up those features and gave us good autofocus, that I think would be enough of a leap to mean that the GH6 was an incredibly good camera. I'd love to see what they do with the GH6, and I do really hope that is one that's coming this year, but who knows? Who knows? Right, Queen Victoria Hospital is asking if the Sony AX700 outputs 10-bit from the HDMI. Got to be honest with you, I do not know off the top of my head. That is a fairly niche camera in terms of the HDMI port on it. Dan, can you see if you can find a answer for that while I answer some of the next questions? We'll see if we can get an answer for you, but I don't know. If drop the sales team an email. If I can't find an answer during the stream, I'll find one for you at some other point. Okay, Trevor Pinnicky saying, which markets will be disrupted by the new Aperture budget lights? Are you seeing inquiries yet? Yes, we're seeing inquiries. If you're talking about the Amaran 100D and 200D, we're not just seeing inquiries, we're seeing a lot of sales. They are going to be very, very popular lights. So for those that haven't seen them yet, they're these two lights here on the front page. And that is the 200D and the 100D, and what you'll notice straight away is the price. These are ridiculously affordable lights for what they can do, because these are effectively their 120D and the 300D light fixtures, but in a much more consumer orientated body design. So it's much more plasticky, doesn't have quite as many features in terms of the high-end build quality features, but they, in terms of light quality, they're going to be hard to beat. We're seeing a huge amount of interest on those. If you are interested in these, I would definitely get an order in pretty soon, because I think they are going to be very high in demand. In fact, Christian says mine is coming from this week from ProAV brackets. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully. Thank you very much for ordering. Okay, which markets will be disrupted? Sorry, that was your main question, wasn't it? Well, it's an interesting one. I mean, in terms of lights, it's difficult to know. Let's just, out of interest, have a little look at our sort of lighting category on the... I'll go to LED panels rather than... the sort of the studio fixtures like those ones are, and just look at what else we can get on the website right now for that kind of price. I mean, all of these are relatively simple basic lights. There's some tube lights from LS, they're quite fun. You know, these are fairly small, things like the LS Edge 300. You know, there's some, the 518 image, we've got a 2x1 that's quite affordable. The smaller SWIT flexible panel, these are the sorts of lights that you're going to be getting for this sort of price. And all of these are going to be not hugely bright, and they're not going to be hugely soft either, because all of them are relatively small. And so I think those are the lights that are going to... if people are just trying to do it on as smaller budget as possible, but they want as soft a light as possible, whereas before they might go for something like this, like a relatively cheap 2x1 sort of style panel, I think now they might well be looking at certainly the cheaper of the two Aperture ones, the 100D, and then a affordable softbox, because yes, that's going to be slower to set up, yes, it's going to be bigger and clunkier, but it's going to be very bright, and it's going to be the same sort of price, and it's going to be much softer, and so therefore much more flattering. So I think that is going to be a market that's going to be disrupted a lot. And then there's also all the other affordable versions of the Aperture lights, because the Aperture 120D, for example, has been very popular for a long time. There's been a load of other ones like Felix and Godox, and LS have made some, which I think are going to struggle to compete with these more affordable Amaran ones from Aperture. It would be very interesting to actually put them side by side and see which one's better, but because the Amaran ones are made by Aperture, they are going to have that bit of weight and brand recognition behind them, which I think is going to be a big selling feature for a lot of people. Okay, Espen says hello from Norway. Hi. Any news from Kin Affinity? Yes, we have had some news. The Kini Edge is coming, the Mavo Edge. It's, again, as we thought it would be, delayed a little bit more. I was never, to be honest, that hopeful that it was going to come before early 2021. They were really hoping to get it out in December. I was always a little bit skeptical of that, but they are saying it is now only a month or so away. And so what they have been saying, though, is the reason that they've been delaying it is because they don't want to ship it until it is ready, or at least as a version 1 ready. You know, the hardware is all there and they're still working on the software. That's sort of ready. They don't want to send it out until they've got all those quirks ironed out. And so I think personally that is the right way to do it. I would be happier if they delayed it 4 months and delivered us a really good, stable, secure camera that just offered on promised up everything that it promised. Because that Mavo Edge looks fantastic. It looks well worth the wait. I'm very, very much looking forward to it. Okay, RG Old Channel. Is the Sony FX6 going to arrive ever? I pre-ordered mid-November and still waiting. Did you pre-order from us? Because I think most of our ones that were pre-ordered from mid-November have had their deliveries by now. I'm not super in the know there because I'm not in the sales team. And I think if you did order from us, if you haven't got it already, you should be getting it relatively soon. There was a long delay on them, and there was a decent first shipment of the FX6. Then there was a long pause because of some factory issues, and now there's been a decent batch gone again. So I would have thought pre-ordered in mid-November, we would have cleared that by now. So if you did pre-order from us, give us a call, talk to the sales team, find out where you are in the queue. Just heard from Dan, by the way, can't find an answer for the AX700 question. I think it is unlikely that it is going to be 10-bit, to be quite honest. It's possible, but I think it's unlikely. I imagine it will be 8-bit. I will try and find out for you. If you drop us an email to the sales at ProAV, I will try and find you an answer there. Okay. Mark is saying if you were to upgrade, this is talking about the GH6. If I was to upgrade, it would be the Panasonic S1 because of the EVF and full HDMI are better than the Panasonic S5. And it seems I could pick up an S1 second hand for about the same price as an S5. Yep, sure. Makes sense. The S1 is a much bigger camera, so it does depend whether or not you like having a chunkier camera or whether you like having a small little lightweight camera. I personally love the S5. I think it feels great in your hands. But yes, you're right. The EVF and the full HDMI sized HDMI are better on the S1 than on the GH5. But you'd be getting a second-hand unit rather than a brand new one. So, you know, the price isn't the same. Okay. Sinbad, as far as you know, is there any chance to see serious, affordable, in inverted commas? So by that he means under $5. So 5,000 US dollars. Full frame cine zooms anytime soon. Looking at Sigma 24 to 35 and Sony 16 to 35, but really disappointed by the lack of options. No, I don't think there's going to be any affordable full frame cine zooms under that price point anytime soon. I think we are just starting to see full frame, Super 35 affordable cine zooms that come in at that price. Look at the DZO lenses. Takina are doing some things. The Laowa Ohm lens. We're only just at the point now where we're starting to see those hit the market, which are Super 35. The thing I would point out though is that when the Laowa Ohm lens came out, which is a Super 35 25 to 100 T 2.9 cinema zoom, which I think is around £4,000 ex-fat. When that came out, they did say that they were going to be working on a full frame expander for the lens, which would mean that it would work on full frame cameras. Now, normally with an expander, you would expect to see some image degradation, but they were saying that it was just as good as using it in Super 35 with a Super 35 camera. If anything, a little bit better is what Laowa was saying. And I now know that they have just put on social media that they have finished those. So they are going to be shipping soon. So I'm very curious to try those out because that would be about £5,000. I assume that adapter is going to be about that sort of price difference for a full frame 35 to 125 or whatever it would be cinema zoom, which would be an incredible offer. If they have managed to mean that you can do that without any loss in quality, that's a big deal, a really big deal from Laowa. So that would be the one I would look out on. To be honest, the world of cinema glass does move very slowly. It takes an awfully long time to develop any of these high-end cinema optics. And so if anything did hit the market, I would be quite dubious of it, just because it would have been rushed through after the popularity of full-frame cinema optic cameras. And so I don't think we're going to see, or at least see any good, affordable full-frame cinema zooms anytime soon. And by any time soon, I mean this year. Hopefully I'm wrong. I would be very happy to be wrong there. If there is any that come out, I will be testing them and taking a look at them, because that would be very welcome. But the exception to that might well be the Laowa lens. So have a look at that one. Sorry, the trouble with doing these by myself and talking all the time is it does make your voice go. Okay, Mark. He has heard a rumor that Nikon could be in financial trouble. Have you heard anything, as Olympus was sold recently? Yes, but Olympus has been bought out, so they are going to carry on making cameras, I think. But yes, it is a hard time for, I was going to say for smaller camera manufacturers. Nikon are hardly a smaller camera manufacturer, though in the stills market they dominated for a long time. It was either Nikon or Canon, and those were the only options. As we all know, Nikon haven't fared quite as well as Canon, or definitely as well as Sony, in the stills market for the last 5 years. And that must have hit them fairly hard. It takes a lot of money to develop these cameras, and if nobody then buys them, that's going to cause problems. So yes, I've also heard rumors that they're in financial trouble. A company the size of Nikon, it wouldn't just stop, though. Somebody would buy that, just like they have with Olympus, and carry on making the products. That's too strong a brand to just disappear as a manufacturer, at least I would hope so. So I wouldn't worry too much, but yeah, Nikon are, I'm sure, in some harder times than Canon and Sony are. Right. Krista Jonas, is that how you say your name? I'm sorry if I'm absolutely butchering the pronunciation of that. He has heard that Sony asked other manufacturers to stop making BPU batteries due to safety concerns. Is it safe to use third-party BPU batteries? Are Sony batteries better than third-party ones? Yes, Sony batteries are better than third-party ones. That's the case with most manufacturers. There was an issue with some BPU batteries back in the FS7 days, where some of them were shorting out. I think there was some cases of it damaging cameras, but like tiny numbers, and so because of those small numbers, they just sort of stopped supporting on their, they didn't stop supporting it in the cameras, they stopped supporting it in all their chargers, all third-party BPUs, but they were very, very small numbers. And we've sold a lot of third-party BPU batteries to a lot of customers, because we've got a lot of Sony customers using BPUs. And we, Hawkwood, Switz, all of those sorts of ones, Chorus WX, all of those comparative brands, we've sold a lot of them and had very, very few come back with any problems. So yes, I would definitely say they are safe. I think it is Sony being overcautious. Sony are a very cautious company on things like that anyway. And also remember who benefits from that. Sony do, because then they sell you their more expensive batteries and they sell you their chargers. And so they get more control over the camera platforms. They get more control over the communication backwards and forwards. And then they make more money because they sell you their batteries. It's a fairly easy decision to stop supporting third-party BPU batteries. We've seen Canon do the same thing with BPA. It's not just a Sony thing. Canon have done the same thing with BPA, where they've made such an intelligent battery that they actually have that proprietary connection. So it's very, very hard for third-party manufacturers to make a battery which will communicate through it. They've basically done the same thing, but in a hardware lockout. So at least Sony is better than Canon in that aspect. But yeah, we've got loads of customers using third-party BPU batteries. I think after that scare with some of the safety concerns where some cameras went wrong, most batteries, I know for a certain, Swit did and Hawkwoods did. I don't know about the other ones, but I'm assuming they did as well. Most of them went back and redesigned and came out with a new version of the battery to fix it. So yeah, I would say that there's been no problem. And Sinbad here is just chiming up. I've been using the IDX one, BP98, for years, and they've been fantastic. And the Sony one retails for $450, which is crazy. Yeah, they are much higher priced. Okay. Espen is saying that the Sony Ace X700 does record externally in 4210-bit to ProRes DNX codec. Careful though that that's not just on Atomos's website that you're seeing that, Espen, because Atomos do this slightly misleading thing where technically whatever you feed their recorders, they're going to record it as a 10-bit file, even if it's not being sent 10-bit. So you can send an 8-bit signal over an HDMI port to an Atomos recorder, and it will save you a 10-bit file. Doesn't mean that it's 10-bit because it's only got 8 bits of information in there. It's just the way that ProRes as a codec works. Certain ProRes variants are 8-bit by nature, and some variants are 10-bit by nature. And what you're sending it from the camera doesn't change that. But even though it's a 10-bit file, technically, you won't get any benefits of it being a 10-bit file. It is will grade in exactly the same way as a 8-bit file. Okay, Marshall, trying to choose between the Active 6 and the Active 8, so that's the new Satchler tripod heads with the lever on them, for use for the C200. Satchler say that the max drag on the Active 6 is the same as the drag setting 4 on the Active 8. How would you decide between the two? To me, with the Active lineup, it is as simple as if you can afford the 8, you should get the 8. The only reason to me to go for the 6 is the saving in price. The 8 is just a better tripod head all round. For all, I suppose the exception to that is if you're using really small cameras and you know that you're only going to use really small cameras, just because the drag settings on the 6 are slightly more tuned to get more fine control in the lower end of the payload range and the counterbalance. If you've got a C200, I would go with the 8 unless you can't afford to. The reason I say that is because the 8 has much more drag settings, much more counterbalance settings. The 6 is actually quite basic in terms of the amount of drag and the amount of counterbalance settings that it has for a tripod head of its price point. For the 6, you really are paying a lot for the active bit, the quick release system, whereas the 8, I think, is a much better balance between their head versus the money. I just recommend to all customers, go for the 8. It's much more better value for money and will last you a lot longer. The only reason to go for the 6 is if you can't afford the step up to the 8. Okay. Thanks, Carl. Call me Chris next time. I will do. That is much easier to say, Chris. Thank you. Okay. Ranjit is saying, what's the best, the Canon XA11 or the Sony MC88 for video? I'm just going to remind myself of what the Sony MC8 is. 88. I think the Sony MC88 is the smaller one of the Z90. So the Z90 is going to, well, the MC8 is there, or is it a smaller sensor than the Z90? No, it's a 1-inch. So I would say the Sony is better. The XA11 is kind of smaller chip. The XA40 from Canon would be a much better comparison. Canon XA40, I'm pretty sure the XA40 is the one with the 1-inch sensor. I do get a little confused. No, that's the 1/2-inch sensor. It's the XA50 then, it must be, from Canon, which is their one with the 1-inch sensor. Yes. There we go. Let me chuck that on the big screen for you. So this is the Canon XA50. This would be the better matched one to the Sony. They're simply because they've got the same sensor size, so both are 1-inch size sensor. Of the two, I think it's really close, and I think it is really down to personal preference. I personally prefer the Canons just simply because I'm more familiar with Canons and I like the way that they work. I also think the autofocus is slightly better in them than it is in the Sonys. I would really like to see Sony come out with a new lineup that has all of their autofocus bits from the A7 range in them. But it really is subjective. I did a video back in the day of the Sony Z70 versus the XF405, which is very similar cameras in terms of image quality, and posted a lot of side-by-sides. And it was really interesting to see what people thought in the comment section. I thought the footage from the Canon looked better. Lots of people in the comment section thought the Sony looked better. So it really is down to personal preference. I don't think there is an answer for which one is better there at all. What I would say though is if you are used to using brand cameras from either one of the brands, that might sway you, because a camera like this is all about being able to use it quickly, and if you already know how to use one of them, that is going to be a big advantage. Also, if you are not particularly experienced with cameras, or you need to hand these off to a producer or just somebody that doesn't really have much experience with cameras, I do find the Canons are slightly more beginner friendly, whereas the Sonys have got much more complex features in them. So if you are a much more experienced user and you know what you're doing with these cameras a bit more, you might get on better with the Sony, just simply because it has some more high-end and specific features in the menus, a bit more of a complicated menu. So that might sway things as well. Okay, Espen is saying he found the info on a forum. Yep, brilliant. It might well be 10-bit then. I don't know either way, like I said. So thank you very much for chumming up and helping. Okay, Trevor. Seen a good bit of movement in anamorphic for crop sensors in the Suriu, I can never say that brand, and the Vazen lenses. Are sales increasing? Is there anything similar for full frame other than Atlas? Atlas is Super 35 as well. For the most part, I know they've got an expander. But natively they're Super 35 lenses. There's not many full frame native anamorphic lenses at all. So most of them are Super 35, and anamorphic is a very difficult thing to get good and get right. I do really like the look of the... I was told how to say the brand literally last week, and then over the weekend I've forgotten it. Siriu. I cannot remember how to say it. Sirui. Let me find them on here. So these lenses, I've heard really good things about these, and as an affordable anamorphic lens, these do look really good. Mostly the image quality on them does look quite impressive for an affordable anamorphic lens. I'm not 100% sure I'm keen on the extent of the blue flare that goes across. I think it is quite heavy-handed, but it's anamorphic. It does look good. I like the out of focus areas, and they've got I think they've definitely got a better image than the previous most sort of best-selling affordable anamorphics which we sold, which was the SLR Magic ones, which did have quite a few chromatic aberration issues. Trevor says no one knows how to say them. I know. I need to learn. But they are I think they're going to be quite popular. Definitely. Okay. RG says he'll get on the phone about his FX6 soon. Yep. Please do, because if you order from us, I don't know why you haven't got that yet, get in touch with our sales team. On that topic, can you record RAW to the Ninja 5 at all on the Sony FX6? I know they say use the Shinobi. They don't. They say use the Shogun, not the Shinobi, for a better quality RAW. But is it possible to record RAW this way? No. The A7S records RAW over its HDMI port, whereas the FX6 sends RAW out over its SDI port. It basically turns the SDI port into a data stream and sends it out over SDI. So because of that, you do need an SDI receiver that can accept a RAW data stream. And at the moment, the only real one out there is the Atomos Shogun, not the Shinobi. I think you probably put that as a mistake there. I think you meant the Shogun. You're saying that you didn't mean the Shogun, but just in case anyone else out there is confused, not the Shinobi. The Shinobi, although you can get a Shinobi with an SDI port, it's just a monitor. And the Ninja 5 with that SDI receiver that clips on the back as well, that won't give you a RAW input. That's just a video signal. For the RAW on the FX6, you do need the 7-inch Atomos Shogun. Okay, so I think that wraps that up. I think come to the natural end of some of those questions there. Thank you all so much for all your questions and for joining us. I do really enjoy doing these little informal catch-ups each week. It is great to see the same people coming back to each one and to see new people tuning in each time. So thank you so much for joining them. And if you have any feedback on how you'd like to see these change, anything you think is working, anything you don't think is working, please do let us know, and we would be very interested in hearing your feedback. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please do join us for the Thursday stream, the one with John Edwards from Naive on the A7S III and the Zeiss lenses. I think that is going to be a really interesting chat. I'm very much looking forward to that one. And yeah, so I will see you all on Thursday for that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.
XS Wireless Digital is the perfect wireless audio solution for content creators and filmmakers. Thanks to a 2.4 GHz transmission, XS Wireless Digital is a truly plug-and-play system that allows you to upgrade your in-camera audio with one-button operation. With a variety of configurations to choose from, this entry point into the world of wireless will improve your workflow and will expand the possibilities of how you capture audio for your video. For more information, visit sennheiser.com/xswd.
The new Super 35 sensor that Canon have introduced with the C300 Mark III is quite a big step up from other S35 sensors that they have created before. from the body and the flexibility that gives us in terms of the expansion packs and the interchangeable mount, to the sensor with its increased dynamic range for tackling scenes that possibly we couldn't have tackled or captured faithfully before, I can get more out of this camera. My money goes further. It's as simple as that from a business standpoint. From a creative point of view, it's unquestionably unlocking more creative avenues for us as filmmakers.